All right, everybody. How you doing? It's News Debate. I am Lee. This has happened a lot in the past, and I just do not learn. Today was the daylight savings time switch. Scheduled a show before today, on today, and didn't do the correct time calculation. So that's why we didn't get started at the right time today. My apologies. I'll try to do better uh, later this year, next year, in the future. Eh, don't hold your breath. Apostate Nate's joining us. Patreon.com/NEWZ debate supporter, good friend of the show. Happy Daylight Savings Day to you, Apostate Nate. How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right, Lee. I guess you could call it a rough patch in my existence, but I'm happy to be back
You
here
got like a
and
high
on the
five.
show.
Oh,
What's that? Mhm.
so is there
Can you hear
anything
me?
you'd like to start off with today? We attacked Iran. We
Attack
haven't
Iran.
invaded Iran, but would you like? Yeah, I can hear you. There might
Yeah.
be a delay. Let me see
Hmm.
if I can fix this. Let me work on this. We're starting the show off really, really well. All right, let's see if that fixed it.
Hey, hi, Lee. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No.
Apostate Nate, are you there? I don't think this is going out well. There we are. All right, Apostate Nate, can you hear me now?
Hi, Lee. Can you hear me?
I do hear you, but I don't think you hear me.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you can. You hear me now.
Yes.
All right. Well, for some reason over on Twitter Spaces, it's not showing anything coming out of my account when I speak, so you don't get that little waveform. But hey, I'll take what I can get. So throwing things to you, Apostate Nate, what do you want to start off with? We have the Iran war, the attacking of Iran by the United States and
Um.
some of our allies. But you could go in a different direction.
Well, just as a minor order of business, if my Patreon doesn't go through, it's because somebody stole my bank card, like compromised the digital information. A few days ago, so I'm dealing with that mess to start. But that's just a brief note. Um,
Sorry to hear that, Apostate Nate. How did that happen? Didn't this happen in the past
they
with
don't.
you? I feel like you're
It's
making some
happened to
dangerous
me. I feel
choices.
like I'm a target, and I don't understand why because I don't put myself in situations like I mean, like what, I'm doing business with like McDonald's and Starbucks and you know what I mean. And I don't know. I guess it's just easy to get a hold of people's. The good thing is that none of my funds were taken or compromised. Um, Whoever had stolen it, a lot of times what a thief will do is try like a dummy transaction to see if they can get it to work, and then they'll go from there. And the fraud department of my bank caught it immediately. So um, if there's a gap in there, which there could be, depending on when I get my card, that's why. Um, Enough of that. We
Well,
should
thanks
talk
for
about
letting me
Iraq. Huh? There's
know.
so much to say.
Sorry to hear that. Let's hope you recover really well, and let's move into Iran. Yeah, what a transition.
Lee, I find myself having mixed feelings about Iran. Um, like I'm not. I can't say that I'm in favor of the U.S. involvement. Am I sad to see that Ayatollah go? Not really. Um, but part of me is starting to wonder: is this Iraq all over again? Is that what it's going to become? Is it going to become another civil war in which who knows what we figure in, but we'll be there, and so will the blood of American soldiers. Um, so I sort of wonder about that. It leaves me with mixed feelings about what's going on because I do believe that the Ayatollah they took out was an evil person. Um, but is that I don't know. Is that who we are? Do we just go around like bombing every evil doer like we're in the Marvel comic universe or something? I don't know.
So, good talking points. Let's break them down one by one. I would say this is clearly not like Iraq with George W. Bush because I believe he got congressional approval. Because isn't that what Hillary Clinton voted for, but Barack Obama voted against? We can check that, but I think that's the case. Second, when all that started, like it was an invasion. The whole mission accomplished thing, it didn't take very long to get into Iraq and take it over. But then, of course, shit hit the fan. So I would say from the get go, this is not Iraq. Secondly, this is not Iraq because when that happened, rightfully so, not a lot of people, but rightfully so, some people were like, Iraq didn't attack us on 9/11. So what's going on here? With Iran, Iran didn't attack us on 9/11 and hasn't attacked us lately either. But within the last couple of months, I think they've killed 30,000 protesters or more, and no one is defending that. So there's a clear sort of we are the righteous doers here, taking out the evil leader, taking out this evil regime. There's no switcheroo going on. We're not trying to fool people. The attack on Iran, the continued attacks on Iran, there have been casualties on our side. There's been a lot of casualties on their side, but at no point has this echoed the shock and awe of the invasion of Iraq. So I guess it could turn into that. I'm open to that being a possibility, but I think from the get go, we're not anywhere near there. To hit home again on the righteousness, like Iran is terrible. This leader who died, I personally am really happy that he's dead. He did not go to the heaven he thought he was going to go to. I'm an atheist, so it's not a diss at his religion. Like, he was wrong. Personal viewpoint here, sharing some personal views. And then on top of all this, I think Trump actually has a success record here. He kidnapped the president of Venezuela and in a way toppled that regime, but then the vice president took over, so you can argue not okay, well, certainly had a change in power, and we never invaded Venezuela. I don't think we are going to. So I think that what he's doing thus far with Iran, he has a success record here that he can point to. Donald Trump can do anything. I don't like him, but he can do anything. He's shown that. So I fully believe that it could just be we're bombing the crap out of them with Israel and some European allies, and we just keep doing that. And who knows what that's going to end up looking like, but we don't have to invade them. In fact, I think we will not. Um, I think Trump legally attacked Iran. I don't think the president of the United States needs any approval to do this sort of war work, if you will. After a certain amount of time, maybe they do, but to do this, every president has done something similar to this, where you just bomb places without any approval. And I'm okay with that. I think you have to have that in today's world. I think it kind of removes Congress from declaring war because why would you ever do that anymore? But I think it makes sense. And then finally, I want to hear back what you think about this, Apostate Nate. I'm against this. I am so sick and tired of the US having to take out the evildoers around the world. Fuck you all. Take care of your own goddamn business. I don't care anymore because America is falling apart. Spend money on Americans. America is for Americans. Help Americans out. Now, no party is going to dismantle the U.S. military industrial complex. Both parties are going to keep funding it. Maybe you'd argue Republicans fund it a little bit more, but Democrats also are going to fund the shit out of it. So I don't think that by not getting involved in these international conflicts, we're going to help Americans more. But at least if we don't, it's a possibility that we might, even though we're not going to. So that's kind of my whole summation. I want to say hi to Sports Rumble over on Stereo. Sports Rumble, go ahead and leave a message if you'd like. Speaking of which, let's just play a couple of quick messages we have over on Stereo, and then we'll go back to Apostate Nate. This is Kensington.
What's up, Lee Newz Debate? What's going on, man? Long time no see, dude. How's everything going? Hopefully well. Hopefully well.
Yeah, now that we finally got the show going, everything's going really well. This one doesn't have a transcript, so rolling the dice on this. Let's hear from Psych.
Hey, Lee Newz Debate. What's going on? Yeah, crazy times, huh? Well, I don't support the war in Iran, but it is awesome to see Tel Aviv getting their payback. Bum, bum, Tel Aviv. Bum, bum, Tel Aviv.
That was weird. That took a weird turn. Can't endorse that one. So my poll over on Stereo. I support the Iran war. Don't support the Iran war. I don't support the Iran war. I'm tired of this shit. But if we're going to do this sort of thing, so if I remove my personal preference from the situation, this is absolutely worth our time and effort. If this can result, I mean, thus far, I feel like it has already proven to be worth our time and effort. Don't fuck with the United States. I don't know that we needed to prove that, but don't fuck with us. We'll kidnap your president. We'll kill your supreme leader person. Don't fuck with us. And the Iranian regime is evil and just murdered like 30,000 people in the last couple of months. So if we're going to do this, this is totally worth our time. I don't think we should do this, and therefore I'm against it. But if I remove that personal preference, this is all looking pretty good. All right, Apostate Nate, what do you think about this?
I hate it when I kept losing my train of thought throughout, forgetting what I was going to say there, Lee. I think I share the sentiments on why is it always us? Why are we doing this? And that sort of makes me wonder, like, if we're going to do this, then someone needs to explain to me why North Korea shouldn't be next. If that's what we are,
Well,
if we're
really
gonna,
quickly, the reason I'll explain that to you is because North Korea, even without nuclear weapons, could set South Korea on fire. And secondly, they have nuclear weapons that they could launch. Iran is a much less developed nuclear power. They have much less military prowess at their disposal. That's why we'll never attack North Korea.
I just wonder that, like, I think what I'm doing is I'm holding the United States up to its like evildoer ethic, right? And I do think that the greatest geopolitical crime internationally, is that nothing has really been done about the people of North Korea, who, in my opinion, are prisoners.
This was the Saddam Hussein mistake. Who was the guy who was like a really snazzy dresser, and then he was taken out of power? And there's video of him like being strapped to a tank or something. He's all bloody. Was that Libya? I can't remember. If you are an evildoer, if you are not a great person, and you do not clearly have nuclear weapons at your disposal, eventually you're going to get taken out. North Korea foolproofed that plan a long time ago. From what I understand, from what I've read and we've discussed on previous shows, they have enough military stuff that's like underground, and you bomb it, and they just put it underground, and then they pull it back up once the bombs blow up. They could still have mass casualties in South Korea just by firing artillery, and then if they invade and all that stuff, I've read conjecture that maybe the military will have a coup and they won't want to fight, but enough people, I think, would fight no matter what, that a lot of people would die. Plus, they have nuclear weapons. So you're absolutely right. I think that it's righteous to kill the leader of Iran, and I'm glad it happened, because not only recently have they shown us how much of a piece of a shit that administration, that authority is, but we've known that for quite some time. North Korea, no different, but we're not going to be able to pull that off. So, I don't know as much about Venezuela, but I'm guessing they don't have a very foolproof military, since we were able to sweep down and just kidnap Maduro's ass. Iran clearly is not that competent. They've been able to fire back, and a handful of U.S. troops have been killed, and that's unfortunate, of course. And maybe some people have been killed with our allies. I'm not up to date on that. But I mean, we could just keep this up, and I don't see them surviving this. I'm no expert, but I feel like this has been pretty effective. We got a full house over on Stereo. Go ahead and keep leaving us voice messages. We got Apostate Nate over on Twitter Spaces. It's News Debate. I'm Lee. Go to bit.ly/NEWZ Debate for all my links. Let's hear from ABC News now. President Donald Trump has announced, or rather, President Donald Trump previously announced major combat operations against Iran on February 28th, with massive joint U.S.-Israel strikes attacking targeted military and government sites. Iranian state television then later confirmed that great leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was among those killed by airstrikes in Tehran on the first day. His successor has now been named. I'll get to that in a moment. I believe it's his son. Iran was then responding to the operation with missile and drone attacks targeting Israel, regional U.S. bases, and multiple Gulf nations. Israel then also intensified its long-running strike campaign against the Iran-backed Hezbollah militia in Lebanon. Then that led to some casualties on the U.S. side. And the second oldest son of assassinated Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Mojtaba Khamenei, has been chosen as the next Supreme Leader. Hey, it's a rose ceremony. Someone steps out. Mojtaba Khamenei, here's your rose. You're the next Supreme Leader of Iran. He's now the third leader of the Islamic Revolution of Iran by the vote of the Assembly of Experts. Wow, that's actually kind of a nice title, Assembly of Experts. Seven service members have now been killed in action during Operation Epic Fury, which was launched on February 28th. So that's 7 American service members. And 9 U.S. service members have been seriously wounded. I'm not seeing anything about Israel casualties or other things. I'm sure there's probably some update on that. I'm on abcnews.com right now. Oh, wow, this is great. On March 5th, so just a handful of days ago, there's a picture of Americans boarding a U.S. Department of State flight to get out of the Middle East, but it says Patriots on the side of it because it's a plane chartered from a company that manages the New England Patriots team plane. Man, that's a great way to get rescued from the Middle East. The Patriots NFL plane comes in and gets you. That's awesome. On Sunday, White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said that the Iran war for now would remain an air campaign, but did add that President Donald Trump has not removed sending in ground troops from his table of options. I think this doesn't mean anything, but okay, technically it's still an option. I mean, that is true. I don't know that there's anything you can read from this, but. And Trump says the next supreme leader is not going to last long without his okay. Trump wanted to have Iranians get his approval for the next leader. He's going to have to get approval from us. If he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long. We want to make sure that we don't have to go back every 10 years, but you don't have a president like me that's not going to do it. Hey, that's a fair point. Say what you want about Trump. He'll do just about anything. The president added, I don't want people to have to go.
Democrats have somebody like
I'm
that.
sorry, apostate?
Yeah, I said, why can't Democrats have somebody like that? You know what I mean? Like
because Democrats have no testicles. My side has no testicles, none whatsoever, zero cojones. This is why the Republicans are always going to have a certain amount of victories, and sometimes, like with Donald Trump, a shit ton of victories, because they will do whatever they want. They don't care about public opinion. They don't care about legality. They don't care what the Constitution says. They will do whatever the hell they want. Some Democrats are starting to get a little more fiery, a little bit more ferocious, like Gavin Newsom and some other Democrats that have come out against transgender anything. You can do whatever you want, no matter how old you are. We have to give you every bathroom privilege, and we have to let you play in every sport you want. We've seen some changing of the guard when it comes to that topic, but yeah, no one's ever going to pull this stuff off. This is why I always say, no matter what you think about Donald Trump, yay or nay on Donald Trump, he will easily, because he's already achieved this in my book, be the most successful president in the history of the United States when it comes to just getting whatever he wanted done. He's had very, very few losses. Tariffs from the Supreme Court, certainly one of them. But when the Supreme Court said, you can't do this, President Donald Trump, which was a bit surprising to me, but okay, hey, they stuck to their guns. He went and just said, okay, there's a 10% global tariff now on everybody because there's some executive power from the 70s or something that allows him to do that. And then I think he upped it to 15% or said he was going to up it to 15%. So even when he loses, he still gets to do what he wants to do.
Yeah,
but back to you,
almost makes
Apostate
me
Nate.
envious. It almost makes me enviously. And there's so much more entertaining on that side. That's the other thing is like we're just so boring. Like can we liven it up a little? Just a bit. Like when you say the left needs its own Trump, I don't know if they don't need a demagogue, but they definitely need someone who is a little bit feisty, right? Who isn't gonna like play by every last button up rule, but also not drift into loony land where Trump and his followers currently have it.
Yeah, the problem is I don't know if you can do that. It's like, can you be a little bit pregnant? So I don't know if someone can do anything remotely close to what Trump accomplishes like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, unless they're like Trump. Now, no one is like Trump, so they're not going to be exactly like that, right? And that's going to be the problem with the GOP is that no one is going to be able to perfectly replace what they have now. But at the same time, if it's close enough, okay, it's a proxy. Apples to oranges, or like one type of apple to a different type of apple, but hey, it's still apples. Democrats are not going to be able to do that because, once again, can you be kind of pregnant? So maybe if we get another Republican in the White House after Trump that is, close enough to Trump and they're still doing whatever the hell they want, some Democrat could get so angry that they're just going to go in guns a-blazing. I doubt it. You probably heard this previously when I was arguing with Bjorn over on Stereo. He was saying like, "Oh no, we have to stick to the rule of law," and I pointed out, I believe very correctly, like, so if Republicans move forward 10 meters every time they're in the White House, and all we're doing is just trying to repair the damage, they're going to have a lot more success over 30, 40 years than we are. Like, we have to move our own 10 meters when we have a Democrat in the White House. And then eventually he came to the dark side and was like, all right, sure, let's have Democratic versions of Trump, but only until we fix things. And then we'll go back to the rule of law. And I was like, all right, sure, we could try that. I don't think that's going to work, but that's a compromise I'll make. So I congratulate Donald Trump and his supporters yet again. I don't support the Iran war, but wow. Didn't support going into Venezuela, but wow. Didn't support the tactics of ICE, but still, despite the people that were murdered by ICE deported mostly, 99.9% of people deported by ICE, 100% on my end support. Those are people that shouldn't be here. Overstayed their welcome. Never should have been here in the first place. So I congratulate Trump on that. It's just like win after win after win after win. And it doesn't matter what people think of him. It doesn't matter if he has a low approval rating. He gets stuff done. I'm really interested now what happens with the next president. Is it Vance? Does Trump try to make a run for a third term? Once again, Trump can accomplish anything he wants. I can't count
I think
out that
he's
he
going to
would
try to find some way
try.
to just stay, Lee. Sorry, I think we're in delay land again, Lee. Because I don't mean to be talking over you.
No, that's
So
fine.
time
I'll just stop when you start talking. I'm not sure what the delay is, but whether or not it's the third term or he just doesn't want to leave, I maybe there's a fine line between doesn't want to leave and tries to get a third term, because both are not going to be allowed. I personally still think that Trump is going to leave. I don't think he's going to try a third term. I don't think he's going to try to do a coup. He may say some crazy things, but I don't think he's going to actually do anything, just like he didn't actually do anything when he lost against Biden. He left the White House. He didn't do it gracefully. He is not legally responsible for what happened during the attack on the Capitol. He did not encourage people to do that. He did no more than what Democrats did during Black Lives Matter. They didn't tell people to burn shit down, but their messaging, encouraging people to go out and protest, that led to people dying and people burning shit down. So just like Trump, hey, let's fight for the real election results. That led to a lot of bad things happening, but he directly did not tell them to do that. So I think he's going to leave. I'm just interested in who picks up the pieces on the Republican side and who tries to become president on the Democratic side. I unless the Republican nominee is terrible, I can't imagine a Democrat getting in here. And if the next president is a Democrat, I can't imagine them undoing all the stuff that Trump has done and still has yet to do, because he has quite a lot of time left in his second term. We'll jump back over to Apostate Nate in a moment, but let's get through some messages over on Stereo. Let's hear from Sports Rumble.
Well, Lee, it is amazing to see you. I'll leave a second message in a little bit because I need to go do one thing before then. Well, Lee, like I said, it's nice to see you again. I do support what's going on because of the fact that they are a danger to the whole world because of their affiliations with terrorist groups. However, I'm not real focused on a lot of this because I just recently got married and I'm focused on my family currently.
Well, hey, Sports Rumble. We will have some small sports rumbles running around. Congrats, man.
I see what's happening, Lee. You're slowly coming over to my side of the fence. It's slow, but you're slowly pivoting from the left side over more towards the right.
Yeah, I completely disagree. I'm not pivoting. I'm just recognizing success. So when the right is just one win after another, after another, after another, then I recognize that. I don't want that. There are some things like I support ICE in general. I support however much it costs deporting millions of people from the United States. I support instilling fear in people who are here illegally because they are breaking the law. They are ruining it for people who come to the United States legally. They give immigrants a bad name, even if that's just the only crime they commit. I'm not saying illegal immigrants are all criminals in other ways, but I support all of that. I don't support ICE taking a gun from a guy and then shooting an unarmed man 1.5 seconds later, like 20 times, however many times they shot him. That's all ridiculous. But in general, I support ICE wholeheartedly. They just need to be better. And people need to not oppose ICE in the middle of the street. If that guy and other people had been on the sidewalk, they would still be alive. It's not that that means they're to blame for their death, but they don't have zero blame. So, everybody has a foot in the race. And if people kept their feet on the sidewalk and let the untrained ICE people roam through the actual street, probably wouldn't have been any loss of life in Minnesota. Call me crazy. But I'm still a Democrat. I mean, I still support funding education. I still support basic democratic principles versus Republican principles. I'm not against taxes. I want more gun control. I don't think we're going to get that from the Democratic Party, but in theory, it would come from them if it came from either of the two major parties. So I'm not coming over to your side, but I've recognized success, and your side's having a lot of success right now. Sports Rumble, continue to leave me some messages. Auntie McGetballs, how you doing? Chico over on Stereo, leave me some voice messages. Let's go back to Apostate Nate on Twitter Spaces.
Gosh, Lee, here's the problem is that I had all these thoughts for you, and I hit kind of a wall on this 9,000 piece Lego Titanic that I'm working, and it made me lose the thought train thing. That makes it possible for me to ask you a relevant question about news and politics, and then you to answer.
So let's take a break from Iran and ICE and Trump and all that stuff. So you have a giganto Lego Titanic you're making. My guess is that's the normal looking Titanic, but can you also use those pieces to create the Titanic that has like a giant gash in the side of it, or like the Titanic that's at the bottom of the ocean that's broken into two pieces? That would be
So in
pretty
theory, you
cool.
could do
My
those
guess
things
is
because these are
no.
stock Lego pieces. Okay, sorry, there's that delay again. It's all made of stock Lego pieces. So even though like out of the box right now, like it doesn't give me the instructions to make the Titanic with a gash in it, but there are definitely people out there smart enough to construct a version of a Titanic, a Lego Titanic that would do that. The things that can be accomplished are insanely, and I have a wide variety at this point. When I finish this Lego Titanic, my project will be at 83,000 pieces, one piece at a time.
So when you say 83,000 pieces, it's been a while since I've played with Legos. Is this much bigger than like Star Wars Lego sets or like other Lego sets? Like this must be an enormous Titanic that you're making.
It is. It's 4.5 feet from end to end. It'll be the biggest piece area wise that I build. It's also in what has been made available to the public, the second biggest piece count that Lego has ever put out.
Now, is the middle of this just solid blocks of Lego, or like does the inside of the Titanic have like
Not quite. You can take
floors?
it apart in 3 sections, and you can see bedrooms, bathrooms. You can see the coal furnaces, everything.
So that not only is the size pretty grand, but when you say you take it apart, it shows the inside. So it's like a pretty cool model. I think this is what you have. So I'm showing this up here on my twitch.tv/NEWZ debate and rumble.com/user/NEWZ debate stream. So this is the Titanic, 9,090 pieces. Warning, choking hazard. Okay, small parts, not for children under 3. Thanks for that. It's about $680, at least on Lego.com. So this is the whole thing, and it looks great. But then my question was like, okay, is the middle of it just solid? But then they have some other pictures here, and it shows the 3 pieces you can break apart. And yeah, once you're inside, you can see all the different levels. You can see the engines. Yeah, you can see like rooms. Wow, that's really cool to scale. The engines at the bottom are maybe half
They
or a
were
little
fun to
less
put
than
together.
half the. Yeah. This is super cool, Paste Nate.
Yeah, and I was actually able to land it. I don't think I paid 700 for it. I think I got it for like 5 off of a resale site that I can't remember for the life of me. But you have to be careful because there are counterfeit Lego sets. Even for that, you can buy counterfeit Lego sets.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Some Chinese company probably has like a 1-to-1 replica that's really hard to break apart. The difference is, other than Titanic, probably has like a R in it or something. There's probably some terrible Chinese spelling, but wow, that's pretty
So
cool, man.
the finer details are like that are different for the counterfeit. So in the real one, if you count the stars on the American flag, okay, there are only 48 because there are only 48 states when the Titanic sank.
So I'm looking at this now. This appears to be like a British flag. Why would there be an American flag on the Titanic?
Maiden voyage landing in New York is my guess, plus rich Americans on board. Yeah, there's going to be an American flag.
Okay, so I'm trying to see here. On one end, it looks like a British flag. On the other end, is there an American flag? No, it looks like British
There's an
flags on
American
both
flag and a British. I think there's 2
ends.
British flags and 1 American flag, Lee.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I see 2 British flags here, but let's see if we can. Yeah, there must be a third American. Maybe you can just like swap it out so you can decide what flags you want to display. But that would be great. Like 50 years from now on Antiques Roadshow, someone like has a Lego Titanic and they're like, wow, this could be worth $40,000. But then some guy counts the stars on the flag and he says, there's 50 stars on this flag. And then the person says, well, yeah, there's 50 states. I mean, technically 51 with Greenland, but we never updated the flag. And then he says, well, at the time, there were only 48 states. So this is actually only worth $3 rather than $40,000. Wow, that's a great little piece of trivia there. I got to tell you,
And
Paste Nate,
that's the kind of
I give
attention to
you
detail. Sorry,
credit
Lee,
for
you're
trying to do
scandalous.
this. No, it's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just when you talk, I'll stop talking. But I was just saying, I give you credit for doing this because I don't do puzzles. Like this sounds way worse than a puzzle. I could never do this.
Why would you say it's way worse than a puzzle? Because in a puzzle, I don't know where the hell the right piece is. Lego organizes pieces by bags, and the manuals will work anywhere from just 2 pieces at a time to like 30 pieces, depending on how many quantity of each piece that you need. So it really is like it's so much different. I don't like the idea of a puzzle myself. Um, I get the idea that it's something to like do with your hands. You're always looking. It occupies your attention span. But I don't know. I'm just not a fan of like not knowing where anything is. I like the assembly part of it though. Like when I find the right piece and then assemble. And this is why I find Lego so gratifying because the right pieces are, or like this Lego set, the Titanic Lego set is 50 bags, individual bags, which is a lot. The only set that outranks that is a flat world map, which is roughly 11,000 pieces, and that's their highest set to date.
They have a Lego map. Is it just like 3D with terrain? Is that why it's Legos?
It's not that it's like 3D, but it's like sort of somewhere in the middle, right? Because like parts of it'll be raised and parts of it aren't. It's just a flattened world map that's 11,000 pieces. I myself don't have that, but I have the fully functional rotating Lego globe, which was a lot of fun to put together.
Wow. Do you remember when Legos were just pieces? And like if you made Santa's sleigh or you made a car, like it didn't actually look too much like a car or Santa's sleigh because it was all square. But now when you buy these sets, it's like all custom pieces, right? So you can't, I mean, I guess you could, but like Legos have turned into sets and the pieces don't quite really work for anything else other than the set. Where originally, correct me if I'm wrong, Legos were like, yeah, you could get like certain types of Legos, but like generally Legos were just Legos. And now it's like it's just like models. Like if you go to a hobby shop and buy like a bunch of like World War II tank models, like those pieces are just for those models and you can glue them together and paint them and do all that stuff. But aside from putting them next to other models to make like a giant scene of like World War II combat, like there's not much movement from one model to the other with parts. And originally Legos were supposed to be like universal. It's creative. You just like grab all your pieces and have fun and make things. But like now it's all sets.
Yeah, but
I
here's the
don't know if
thing,
that's
Lee.
a
The sets,
negative, but it's different.
sorry, the sets are largely made up of stock pieces. The number of custom pieces are rare. And I'll give you an example of custom pieces that are rare. I have a Lego set that is a Nintendo Entertainment System with a controller and a cartridge, okay, and a television with a crank on it where Mario himself hops up and down and traverses one of the levels in the original Super Mario Brothers. Now, it's got some pieces, such as a piece you can't find it anywhere else, which has Nintendo Entertainment System inscribed on it. There's a Mario piece that attaches to kind of like a suction cup looking Lego piece that enables Mario to travel. And that's obviously a custom piece, but the vast majority of these sets, Lee, are made with stock Lego pieces. I have a massive bin of spare parts, as I call them, that I really need to organize. But what's fascinating about these builds is that yeah, it's only a custom set because they gave you a manual and they gave you the right pieces for it. But the stock pieces are the overwhelming majority of pieces in each set. That's the truth of it.
I mean, I guess I can take your word for it, but looking at this Titanic thing right here, like I am not seeing any normal pieces whatsoever. Like you see the curves and all these really specific things. Like the only thing that maybe could be normal pieces are like the red bricks on the bottom, and maybe some of the black bricks on the top, because the side of the Titanic is red at the very bottom and then black at the very top. But like everything else, including the cutaways where you can take it apart and it shows all the rooms, like none of this looks like normal Legos. So I assume there are some normal Legos in there, but like,
The
oh, it's
vast
got to be a small
majority of what you're
percentage.
looking at in
All of
those
this looks
pictures, I
custom.
that's because the designer, okay, that's because you get a good architect, okay? You get a good Lego architect who can make Purple Smith in the space here, a very good friend of mine. He's actually with me here as a guest of mine. Actually, did a space where recorded space, by the way, where you can see the Lego Museum, as I like to call it. Um, Not finished yet, but again, it's got some, it's doing well, and it's got all these custom looking things like two custom Millennium Falcons, but again, made up of very much stock pieces, and that's the brilliance of it. The number of truly custom pieces that you can't find in another Lego set is vanishingly small, and that's a testament to the brilliance of the people who design them. Because I have the patience and the passion to assemble this stuff, I don't think that I have the mental agility to sit down and conceive of it. But what I can say is that doing this project, among other benefits, has really helped me with spatial intelligence. And I know that because I've gotten better at solving problems as I go, and we're more quickly realizing where I made a mistake, and so on and so forth. And I've been able to surmount delays with a lot more confidence. Like, for example, it took me forever today just to get about 15 pieces to really hold together and stick, and it was really frustrating. Um, but I've come a long way in the sense of, like, okay, when I encounter a problem, I know I can do this. 80,000 pieces later, you can do this, and so you develop at least a reasonable degree of confidence. Um, and I would say my favorite thing to build are probably all the botanicals. Like, I have bamboo shoots, orchids, mini orchids, a bouquet of roses, wildflowers. And the reason why those are so much fun is because those don't look like Lego at all from a distance. But every last one of them is, for the most part, a stock piece.
There's a video I just discovered that goes in and out of the Titanic like a movie. Um, and it's moving on an ocean of Legos. Like this is pretty, or pay for it. But I don't know. I'm still seeing a lot of what look like don't look like normal Lego parts. I'm seeing clearly normal Lego parts as well. But yeah, I'll just take your word for it because it looks like there's a
You're
lot
gonna
of
have to,
not
Lee.
Lego parts here.
I
Does it? I'm trying to find. Is it?
Yeah, go ahead. This stupid delay. Lee, I can promise you that I've assembled enough of these at this point to know that it's, again, the vast majority of pieces. I'm looking at the sets in front of me. Some of them are massive, some of them are small. They all have really specific things. One thing that always sits to the right of me on my dining room table, which is where I build, which is just the best spot for me to do it, is it's like a 5,000 esque piece, I think. Disney, maybe 4 or 5,000 pieces. It's the Disney castle from Disney World in Orlando, Cinderella's castle, and that does have quite a few more custom parts and pieces in terms of like getting the look of the princesses right, because they're Lego princesses. So like figures tend to be custom. Um, but again, the vast majority of the pieces in this, the overwhelming majority, are stock pieces, but it looks wonderfully like that castle.
There's some fan moment photos on Lego.com, and it shows a couch like that some or most of us could probably sleep on. Maybe not fully extended, but like your legs would be sticking off one end of the couch. And this Titanic is larger than the couch. I didn't realize how large it was until seeing that photo because it gives you
It's
a
hugely,
good.
sadly, until I get some more custom shelves built in the more proper home for it, it has to go on my bedroom dresser. Because that's the only place in my house long enough to build it. But I wanted to build it. I wanted to tackle it. I wanted to get that 9,000 piece monster out of the way. And I would say right now I'm roughly halfway through, slightly over halfway through. So I've got roughly 4,500 pieces to go, probably. It doesn't make me like a genius or anything or really accomplished, but I guess it does. At the very least, it lets me know that I can do something and like stick to it, right? I'm okay with that.
I'm trying to find like an amount of time. Does it give like an amount of hours of average user time it will take to assemble this?
Everybody's so different. I can't imagine they would pretend at that, but I will say this. I tend to go on the slower end of assembly on the basis of what I've seen on some reviewers of Lego sets on YouTube who will tell you how long it took them to do this or that. And as I've listened to some of those said videos, I have thought to myself, wow, okay, this takes me longer. But for me, Lee, it's about the therapeutic benefits of assembly, the tactile nature of it, taking the pieces, holding the plastic, that hard, firm plastic, clicking it into place, and then, of course, seeing tangible benefits in front of you and being able to feel them. It's all really, really important part of the experience.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like if you have a video game and you can put it on an easy setting and beat the entire video game, it defeats the purpose of buying like a $60 PlayStation game because you have seen everything, but it didn't actually take you a very long time. It's like if you buy a book and then you just read chapter summaries rather than actually reading through it. So I totally get the taking your sweet ass time to assemble this if you're going to invest that much money into it, as well as even if you go quickly, it's still going to be a lot of time. So that
The
makes
the
perfect
value of
sense
the
to me.
museum right now is sorry again. Damn it. The value of what I have in my builds right now is somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,500, and I still have about 20 builds to go.
So these are the total sets that you have purchased. So what do you have aside from the Titanic?
So things that I haven't built yet include a very massive Bowser from Super Mario Brothers. I also have a very, very nice, I can't wait to build this. I might build it next. A Lego architecture piece of the Notre Dame Cathedral in France. I also have the Great Pyramid of Giza to build, a haunted house that's an amusement ride, a lighthouse, a fully functional lighthouse that's just a gorgeous build, um, an aerospace themed build of the very short lived Concorde, the massively fast, plane Boeing that didn't, really fly for that many years. Um, I'm trying to remember, but I'm only touching on a fraction right now. My brain is just fried.
Is there a reason you bought all of these before you built them? Like, did you get a really good
Correct.
deal that you had to buy all of these
No,
for?
I didn't get a good deal. What happened is that during the divorce settlement, I just decided that I was going to set aside, and I'll leave all those nasty details out because it was kind of a circus. But I was able to in that, and I decided in that settlement that since I was going to be, alone, that things weren't going as I had planned. That I was going to try to do some kind of a project to keep myself busy and commit to it. And I said to myself, if I really, because I had always wanted to have a Lego museum in one of the rooms in my home, but that was just vetoed down, just being married and so forth, and not having full creative control. And so I decided to set X amount of the dollars aside in the divorce settlement, essentially, to commit to a Lego museum. I said, if I buy all this shit in sort of one short swoop, then I'm going to be, in a sense, obligated to actually assemble it and put it together and see where this goes. Um, and it's been an insanely positive experience from beginning to end. Everybody loves Lego. Nobody complains about it. I actually wrote a rather fun article about it in my company newsletter, which I won't disclose any of that information on the recorded space. But suffice to say that I had lots of good things to say about Lego as a therapeutic activity, just the assembly itself, and the payoff, because it's really, really fun to look at miniatures, right? Miniatures are the best, I think.
I think if Lego could expand the sort of sets that it has, I could maybe be convinced to buy one and try it. Um, but I've never seen a Lego set that I was really like, oh yeah, I want to make that. Now this Titanic one is really legit and it's super detailed and looks super cool, but I'm just not into the Titanic enough for that to be, my what's it called when like marijuana or drinking brings you into the world, my gateway
I mean,
drug,
the
right?
thing
Like I
is,
need
is everybody's different, right? Like I absolutely want to own every set that I possibly can. Especially now knowing the benefits that I've gathered in. My children love it. Uh, when friends show up to look at it, it's just an amazing thing for them to see. I think I was inspired to do this because several years ago, when my uncle who lived in Boston was still alive and I was visiting him, Boston itself has what's called one of those Lego Discovery Centers, which just have massive displays. And I'm sure these things have been glued in place for years. I don't glue my sets, but they had massive like replicas of the city of Boston, Fenway Park. I think it's Logan is their airport there, so they had a Lego display of that, and everything was just masterful. And what's interesting, and I didn't know this when I really plugged into it there and just had the time of my life, was the sets that you're seeing, Lee, that said like that doesn't look like Lego. Those are sets that are rated 18 and over, and those are exceedingly new in the history of Lego. Those didn't debut until around the pandemic. So you have a history of looking at pre-built sets that are going to look a heck of a lot different because the more finer detailed 18 and over sets are very much new on the scene.
I think if they had like an Area 51 Roswell, New Mexico crashed flying saucer for maybe like $250, I could that could be my gateway drug. So this is fascinating. I want to ask ChatGPT about this. I don't know how much data there is on this, but I know you said you got it for a better price, so kudos to you. That's awesome. But it's listed as $679.99, so $680 on Lego.com. I'm wondering, isn't this all just plastic? Like, this has got to be a huge moneymaker for Lego. Like, that's why Lego is such a
But here's
giant
the thing, Lee.
company.
It's expensive, but I've built and I have some in my collection that are off brand by other companies. One of them is called Miniso, which is a Chinese company that deals in the mini bricks. But the point is that nothing out there that I've ever tried, and I've tried a fair amount of off-brand Amazon junk. Nothing is as machine perfect as Lego. Nothing. Lego don't make mistakes. They give you perfect instructions every time. I have never been in a situation where when something went wrong, it was their fault. It was always my fault. So I used to think Lego were overpriced until I tried to mix some of the cheaper builds in, and that's when I decided that no, it's worth every penny.
So worth every penny, but I'm interested in just how many pennies profit Lego's making off of this. So let's check in with ChatGPT. I'm on Lego.com right now, and I'm looking at the Lego Titanic. It's listed as $679.99, so $680 plus tax. It's 9,090 pieces. It's super long, it's super magnificent. But my question is, how much does it cost Lego to make each one of these sets? If we just go on pure production costs, how much profit are they making off of a Lego Titanic they sell for $680?
While we don't have precise numbers, estimates put Lego's production cost for large sets at roughly 20 to 30% of the retail price. On a $680 set, that might mean around $140 to $200 in production costs. Of course, that doesn't include other expenses like design, marketing, distribution, and overhead. Still, they likely have a healthy profit margin after all is said and done.
And so that's fair. I'm glad it included that, because if it costs like 20 to 30% of the price to just manufacture, that seems ridiculous. But on top of that, how much money did they spend designing this before they sold it? That's a not zero figure. So that's important. Then you have the marketing, promotion for specific sets like the Titanic versus just Lego in general, because they do a lot of promotion. So I guess when you include all that, it's probably more than 20-30%, but my gut tells me easily less than half the price. So maybe something like 30-40% at the most. They're making a huge amount of money on this. Now, Apostate Nate, you correctly point out, it's still worth it because the competitor products are not very good. But, and this is a hard but, if someone could come in and I guess not copy it, because then you'd only be able to sell it like in China or something. But if someone could come in with something that was so similar to Legos but different enough that it's not a lawsuit situation, and if they could figure out the manufacturing at a level that is close enough to Lego, they could drastically underprice them. These are a lot of steps, and this is probably why no one's been able to do this. But
Yeah,
I feel
real
like
quick
there's
on that,
still
Lee.
opportunity.
If that's out there, I haven't seen it. As someone who does not have an infinite amount of resources and it does not plan on going through divorce settlement after divorce settlement, I'm always on the lookout for off brands, and I've tried several off brands, some of them that have very notable and okay reputations. And again, Lee, they just don't come close. Um, Maybe this opinion would be flimsy on my first build, which was an 800 piece bonsai tree, but I'm closing in on the 100,000 piece mark, and most of those are Legos. Some of them aren't, and the ones that aren't, ugh, Lee, trust me, they're fun to have built, but there's some of them aren't just all that therapeutic because you'd be surprised at cutting production costs when something is like just good enough, but it's not really machine perfect. It's absolutely easy to tell. And I spent years complaining about how overpriced Lego was until I started brick building on the regular. And then I realized you get what you pay for. And these are solid builds. These are builds that even if they fell apart, could be rebuilt. I've got the manuals for them. This plastic's not going anywhere in terms of like things that are environmentally friendly. And Lego itself is actually considered to be a green company, at least by the head of the Climate Crisis Club on this platform, Alex Hale. And there's also converting their packaging for each individual bag to paper. They're in the process of doing that right now. So that's something they're doing to decrease their. But the point is that this stuff is built to last. And I think that there's so much to be said about something that is basically indestructible. The reason why people say, I hope you step on a Lego is because Legos are indestructible. And you step on something indestructible, well, it can hurt a little bit, right?
Yeah, I hope you step on. It have to be a really bad piece of Lego. I'm trying to think of like a set. What would be the sharpest part of the Titanic? Yeah, man, I'm way out of Lego. I had some Legos when I was young. Nothing like this. But hey, let's take a quick break from Legos.
Yeah,
The
sorry about
war
that, Lee.
with
I
a
didn't mean to derail this
no,
based on that.
no, 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 no. This has been great. But I was just looking through some news while we were talking about Legos. Let's take a quick break from Legos. Let's take a quick break from the war with Iran and talk about, drum roll please, International Women's Day. Looking at the Associated Press right now, apnews.com. Women across the world called for equal pay, reproductive rights, education, justice, and decision making jobs, and celebrate progress towards female empowerment during events and demonstrations marking International Women's Day. International Women's Day today. I know we're just a bunch of dudes here. If there's a woman, please jump in now. But hey, it's International Women's Day. Officially recognized by the United Nations in 1977. Well, if the United Nations recognizes it, it means it's not important. That's what we've learned about the UN. International Women's Day is commemorated in different ways and to varying degrees in places around the world. Don't want to step on anyone's toes here. Let's make sure varying degrees. Protests are often political and at times violent. Uh-oh, did my Twitter space end?
Not as far as I can tell, unless there's a delay
Oh,
on
here
an
we are.
ending.
No. Just Twitter's going crazy right now on my device. I'm just trying to bring it back up.
Sorry
Here we
about that,
go.
Lee. It's my favorite way to digest a show like this. So
Okay, for some reason it was just all weird, but clearly I can hear you, so it's still going. All right. So, 2026 marked the 115th year of International Women's Day. This year's theme was Give to Gain, with a focus on fundraising for organizations focused on women's issues and less tangible forms of giving, such as teaching peers, celebrating women, and challenging discrimination. It's an official holiday in more than 20 countries, including Afghanistan. Wow, progress. Burkina Faso, Ukraine, Russia, and Cuba. In the United States, March is celebrated as Women's History Month, but International Women's Day is not an official holiday in the United States. The whole idea behind a Women's Day originated in the US, even though we don't, I guess, recognize it, with the American Socialist Party. Hey, look at that. 1909, founded by Bernie Sanders. No, I made that last part up. It was a German feminist who pushed for a global commemoration during an international conference of socialist women held in Copenhagen in 1910. There's a lot of information here, but it's not so useful. It's really politically correct. They're checking in with like women in Peru and in the Amazon and in Gaza. Advocates for women protested Epstein in New Mexico. It's all coming together. All right. So what I want to do now is talk about, and I apologize because no women present, but I want to kind of break down some of these ideas about equal pay and all these other things. Because if you actually look at equal pay, the details are actually not as terrible as they are generally displayed in news and things like that. So let's try to think about these things. On International Women's Day, which is not recognized in the United States, let's take a look at the facts and see if the facts actually measure up to the hype. But Apostate Nate, I saw your hand was up. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I did, Lee, and then I forgot because I'm about ready to have some dinner here, so I might be quiet for a minute. Yeah, my house guest is not surprised that I lost my train of thought. But yeah, it's
No
not
worries,
recognized
man.
by the
It's hard to
U.S.
think
Wow,
on an empty stomach.
Anyway, Lee, go ahead and carry this for a minute because I'm gonna get something to eat.
So I'm going to see if I can have a conversation here with ChatGPT about this. If not, we'll go to the typed ChatGPT because we might have to go into some actual details. And talking with ChatGPT, you just kind of get the general strokes rather than the details. But let's try this. So today is International Women's Day, and I'm looking at an article from the Associated Press on apnews.com. It starts off by saying women across the world called for equal pay, reproductive rights, education, justice, and decision-making jobs. I want to kind of break each one of these down. So when it comes to equal pay, let's just talk about the United States. How are women not paid the same as men? And are there any parts of these statistics that may be misleading I have seen previously that actually, when you break it down in an objective way, the pay gap between men and women is not as large as some people make you think it is.
You're right that the headline numbers can seem broad. The well known pay gap, often stated as women earning around 80 something cents to a man's dollar, is an average of all women and all men. Once you factor in things like occupation, experience, hours worked, and career breaks, the gap shrinks but usually doesn't disappear. Even after adjusting for many factors, studies often still find a smaller but persistent gap that may reflect bias or systemic issues. So, while context narrows it, that doesn't mean the adjusted gap vanishes entirely.
So tell me about this context. Is it that if you just compare men and women, women make less, but men may have higher paying jobs? Men may work in industries, in professions that make more than women, who often, by and large, work in different professions. What are some of these differences that, when you actually think about them and have the context, it makes it a lot closer than 80 cents to every dollar?
The big headline number often compares all working women to all working men without considering differences in jobs or work patterns. When we look closer, some of that gap is explained by different fields, some higher paying, some lower, different levels of experience, and the fact that women are more likely to take career breaks. When you adjust for these, the gap shrinks, but it usually doesn't fully close, suggesting there's more going on than just choice.
So tell me about what the numbers look like when you add that important context. It's a lot closer than 80 cents to a dollar. So what are we actually talking about when you include all the data? So it's an actual apples to apples comparison, rather than just saying, oh, women make so much less than men, without actually looking at what the data shows.
When you account for factors like occupation, industry, education, years of experience, hours worked, and career breaks, studies often show the adjusted gap narrows significantly, sometimes to just a few percentage points. Instead of something like 80 cents to a dollar, you might see it closer to about 95 cents to a dollar, depending on the study. The remaining gap may reflect harder to measure factors like negotiation differences or bias, but it's definitely smaller once you compare similar jobs and conditions.
So it looks like, looking at this apnews.com article, it doesn't really give that context. So equal pay, okay, we've shown that it's not 80 cents to a dollar. It's closer to 95 cents to a dollar, maybe even more. Let's look at reproductive rights. Here in the United States, there are a ton of women who are against abortion. So tell me about the thoughts on abortion in the United States, broken down not by gender, but by birth sex. So men and women. Isn't it actually very similar? So I'm always confused why reproductive rights is framed by the left as an attack on women, when tens of millions of women in the United States are against abortion.
You're absolutely right. The views on abortion are not neatly divided by gender. Polling consistently shows that men and women, on average, have fairly similar distributions of opinion on abortion rights. The difference in opinion tends to correlate more with factors like political ideology, religion, and region, rather than birth sex. So, when reproductive rights are framed as a women's issue, it's often about the direct physical autonomy involved. But you're right, many women oppose abortion rights, just as many men support them. It's a nuanced landscape.
So now, looking at education, do women have less opportunity for education in the United States? I would argue it's probably actually the opposite, because of, is it Title IX? Universities have to spend just as much money on women's sports as they do men's sports, even though men's sports make all the money and women's sports almost never are profitable. So when you have Title IX plus affirmative action, which helps women a lot, just as well as minorities, can't you argue that women have more opportunity in the United States for education than men, or am I way off?
You're right that women have made huge strides in education. In fact, women earn more college degrees than men, at undergraduate, master's, and even doctoral levels. Title IX and other policies helped ensure equal access, but they don't inherently give women more opportunity than men. Still, the landscape now shows women thriving in education. If we look at specific programs like STEM fields, there's still work being done to broaden representation. But overall, women aren't lacking access to education. It's more about ensuring everyone thrives in every field.
How is Title IX not giving women more opportunity than they deserve when their sports don't make money and money from men's sports, which pretty much only make money, and that's mostly football and a little bit of men's basketball? How is taking money from men's sports and giving it to women's sports so that there's the same amount of opportunity for men and women at universities? How is that not unfair for men?
I get why that might feel like a tension point. Title IX wasn't about equal revenue, it was about equal access and preventing discrimination. Even though certain men's sports generate revenue, universities have a broader mission: education and opportunity. So it's about ensuring that both men and women have comparable chances to participate. It might not always be a perfect market driven formula, but the aim is fairness in access and experience, not just profit.
But my point is that you seem to keep missing, so I'll make sure I tell you this, is that does it make sense to have an aim to have equal opportunity for male and female athletes when people are more likely to want to watch male athletes? They're more likely to spend money to buy merchandise or see male athletes or donate money to the university to support male athletics. Why is it assumed that it's appropriate and good and useful to have equal opportunity when people do not use equal opportunity to decide which sports they like and want to spend money on?
I see where you're coming from, and it's a valid question. The idea behind equal opportunity isn't about predicting or matching market popularity. It's about fairness in access. Just because one area is more popular doesn't mean the other shouldn't have a chance. Title IX's goal is to ensure that, regardless of demand, both men and women have pathways to participate, because access to growth, competition, and representation matters in itself, not just revenue.
Again, I don't think you understand the question that I'm asking, and you're giving me your propaganda as opposed to what makes logical sense. But let's just move on. This AP News article talks about women were calling for decision making jobs. So that's not necessarily talking about equal pay, that's talking about power, making decisions in the jobs that you have. Could you tell me how men and women stack up in the United States when it comes to decision making jobs? And may there actually be reasons for a discrepancy between men and women for the amount of decision making jobs they have, such as the type of careers that men are more interested in, the type of careers that women are more interested in, the type of work life balance that men seek versus women seek, rather than just saying, oh, yes, men clearly have more decision making jobs?
You've touched on a nuanced point. Men do tend to hold more leadership roles, like CEOs or top executives, but the gap is closing. The reasons are multi layered. Differences in career fields, family roles, and preferences all play a part. Some women may opt for paths with more flexibility or different values of success. Others face barriers or bias along the way. So it's not just a single story, it's a mix of systemic issues and individual choice.
When I ask you a question, could you actually cite numbers and reference them rather than just giving me something that has no value? I'm really surprised at how undetailed your answers are when I give you specific things I'm looking to hear.
I appreciate the clarity on what you're looking for. In the future, if you want specific numbers or studies, I'm happy to pull data or give exact references. Just let me know when you want something more concrete, and I'll be sure to provide it.
I have literally just told you I want something more concrete about the answer you just gave me, and you have ignored that request.
I hear you now. Let's fix that. For example, as of recent data, women hold roughly 31% of senior management roles in the US. Meanwhile, the pipeline is improving. Women earn more than half of bachelor's and master's degrees. Factors like industry choice matter. Women are still underrepresented in some fields. If you ever want more numbers, just ask, and I'll bring them right in.
It's so interesting that, you know, large language models like ChatGPT, Gronk, Gemini, they can generate like full novels. If you say like, hey, give me an episode of this TV show that was canceled a long time ago, but I want it to be like this, it'll write an entire episode of a TV show that's super detailed and makes perfect sense given the context of the show, updated for 2026 or whatever you ask. It can generate photos and videos and do all these things, but if you ask it simple things, it won't even listen to what you're saying. It's so funny. As AI gets better and better, it's not a clear progression on all fronts. Clearly leaving some things left to be desired here. But yes, Apostate Nate, your hand is up.
My gosh, Lee, how many times am I going to put up my hand and forget what I was going to say? I feel like there's like a punch card. Like for every 9 thoughts I forget, the 10th ought to be free. That doesn't make sense, does it, Lee? I'm going to mute up right now and try to think of something that does make sense.
I think you're on 3 or 4, so yeah, just do that about 5 more times, and then the 9th or the 10th will be free. I apologize. I know you had your hand up for a moment.
No, I'm like the
just
worst
wanted to finish
co-host
my-
in this space ever.
That's all right. I mean, you're building your Titanic. You got to have your meal. Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. But if you remember in the future, just go ahead and jump in, start talking, and I'll stop talking eventually, and we'll make it work. So I don't mean to poo-poo International Women's Day, which is today, but I think anything that is important needs to have the right context and needs to be supported by data. So, for instance, I don't like Donald Trump as president. There are some things I think he's done a wonderful job on, but generally I don't want him to be in the White House. And I want to attack him and I want him to look bad. And when Democrats do that for stupid things that don't matter, I think it actually makes us look bad. So every time we criticize Donald Trump, we have to be factually correct. We have to think of the context of, well, does it matter that we're factually attacking him, and have some integrity. So when we talk about International Women's Day, we can't just sit here and say, oh, women are getting screwed over for equal pay, reproductive rights, education, decision-making jobs, because that's just not the case. I mean, that is a lie. Equal pay is nearly what it should be. And the 5% gap that we eventually discovered while talking to ChatGPT is so small that even if it is just because you're a woman versus a man, it's so much smaller than 80 to 100%. It's like, is this the thing we really want to focus on? And then even then, the 5% can be explained away in more ways. It doesn't mean that that's the actual discrepancy. It just is the one that we need to look at even further. So if we just say, oh, women aren't paid the same as men, generally that's not true. And when it is true, there are reasons for that you can actually point to, rather than just saying, oh, it's a 20-cent difference. Reproductive rights, I think men are just slightly more likely to support the idea that abortion is murder than women, but it's something like 51 and 49%. So it's almost the exact same thing. So when you frame reproductive rights as an attack on women, you are literally lying, because most women agree with most men when it comes to their rights on reproduction.
Can
So
I just comment
it's
on
not
that
an
real
attack
quickly?
on. Yeah. Go for it, Apostate Nate.
Is I think the opposing view on that would be that um, that the rights are being violated, but that X amount of women are just painfully unaware that their rights are being violated.
Explain that to me, because I think let me actually look this up rather than talking with ChatGPT. I'll look it up on ChatGPT and I'll share my screen. Um, Women who oppose abortion are not unaware of what that means. So, like, can you explain that a little bit further, and then I'll get to some of these numbers?
Well, if a woman has the right to an abortion and they don't think so, but they still have the right to an abortion, to me, I don't think this is that complicatedly. I must confess.
I'm confused about the rights. I mean, you can think something, and it doesn't mean that that's what the law is. I'm talking about what people think when it comes to abortion. Now, federally, you don't have the right to abortion, so they're more correct than they've ever been in our lifetime. But I'm just making this up. If it's 55% of men and 53% of women think abortion is murder, or think abortion is something that we should have um, for the first 6 months of pregnancy, how does that affect taking someone's rights away from someone if it's what they think? I'm a little confused about that. If it's the law
Well,
that the state of California says you can have an abortion up to whatever time in your pregnancy, and then police are preventing doctors from doing that, process, then okay, you would have a point. But if it's just what people think, I'm a little confused about the point you're trying to make.
so so we equating rights with law here? Because if we are, that's going to be a severe impediment to this conversation, I think.
No, I'm talking about what people think. I'm saying people's thoughts on abortion. So I don't know how that stops someone from having reproductive rights just because of what people think.
Let me ask you this.
And
I have the
now,
right to be not.
yeah,
Let me ask you this. I have the right to not be shot in the face when I go out for groceries, right? But if I don't know that I have that right and I am mistaken, I've got some weird idea that other people have the right to shoot me in the face. Does that
but
mean that
that
my
makes no
perception of that
sense.
makes sense?
That makes no sense whatsoever. So, um, it's not that people in the
Oh,
United States.
hard
I'm
disagree, my
sure.
friend. Hard disagree. It's an airtight analogy.
Okay, so let's try to make some sense of this, because I just think that makes no sense whatsoever. So let's try to have a better analogy. So I'm sure there's some percentage of people in the United States who actually think that the law says you can't have an abortion, just like there's some percentage of people in the United States who think the earth is flat, so they're just people who are misinformed. But when it comes to, I'm sharing my screen now from ChatGPT, a 2024 survey by Pew Research found 64% of women say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. So let's just say most, because that makes no sense to say all or most. So most cases. 61% of men say abortion should be legal in most cases. So it's 3 percentage points that it's being separated from. What does that have to do with the actual law? This is saying what they think it should be. Just like if someone says, I think that Christianity should be the religion of the United States, just like it is in Denmark or
Yeah,
something,
Lee,
like their
I've got to
official
confess,
state church is Christian.
to me, this is all immaterial to my point. You know what I mean? I feel like we're going to spin our wheels a lot here. Um, I don't think that matters. Okay, if someone has the right to live and they don't understand that they have that right and that right is violated, that doesn't mean that they still
But
don't have the
where
right
is
to live.
the right being violated here? Because it's no longer federally protected, so there's
A
no
woman has
violation
a right
there.
to control her
States.
reproductive health. Lee. Pregnancy is a potentially life-threatening condition, and a
See,
woman
but now
always has
you're
the right.
taking your thoughts and you're saying that this is what the right is, but legally that's not true. States
So
can
you're
now prevent
equating
abortion, and
rights with
that's
law
legal.
then, and I'm sorry, that's not what I'm doing. So this is kind of a non-starter, my friend.
Yeah, but that's why it didn't make any sense to me, because rights are law. We can talk about like UN goals for the rights of a human being, But when you talk about rights in the United States, we're not talking about what we think. We're talking about
I'm
these are the
talking about
rights.
a woman's right as a human here, to be clear. I don't care if the United States burns. My position still stands, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's fine. But again, I don't think that that matters here because you can have whatever thoughts you have. Someone else can have whatever thoughts they have. No one wins. The only thing we have to go on is what the law says. And that changes from time to time because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, before abortion was
What
changed,
happens when
it
the
was a
laws
different
what happens when
situation.
the laws are moral and doesn't make any sense there, right? Like if that's all we have to go on, then fine, we go on something else. We go on something that's more humane, decent, kind. If the law drives the train off the tracks, then we recognize that and we act accordingly. That's my humble opinion.
But you can't because that's the law. So literally, if the law says that there's no abortion that can be had anywhere in the United States, if it did, hypothetical, then that's what would happen. And if people were performing abortions, they would be sent to prison or have some sort of other, situation. Now we can say that's good or that's bad, but that's how the law works. That's how the law should work. I don't want cops making judgments based off how they feel, because then you have people being treated differently. We're all supposed to be treated the
And
same.
none of my points are relevant to law enforcement itself, Lee. None of them. That is a completely separate issue from this.
I don't see it. So once again, I don't know if we can, pair our differences and have them make sense. Because to
Again, Lee, I
me,
said it about 5 minutes ago. I think we're going to spin our wheels on this, my friend. I'm sorry.
yeah. But this is my final thought. I would say because you're not connecting your thoughts to reality and what I think makes sense. So this would be my final point: is that you can think whatever you want, and I can think whatever I want. But if we're talking about pragmatic, this is how the world works. None of that matters. All that matters is what is the law and whether or not we think it's important to obey the law. If we don't think it's important to obey the law, I don't want to live in that country, and I will run away from that place as quickly as
Lee,
possible
I
because
have to
whatever the
confess,
laws are.
the way that you say that, I would not want to be your neighbor in the Weimar Republic, my friend.
Yeah. But my point is that any country that doesn't obey its own laws is not a country that is going to respect you overall, because it's going to be, who do you know? Who can get you special favors? What judge can you get who's just having a good day versus a bad day? These are all the things we're supposed to move away from. This is why when you have like a loan that you're applying for, they're not supposed to be looking at things that are illegal to look at. They can't look at whether or not you're black, white, or Asian. But if they can just do whatever they want because they're not following the law, that leads to more discrimination. So I'm just really confused, like why you would want to live in a country where it's okay to act in ways that are against the law when that's how society functions. I'm not talking about a repressive government. I'm not talking about a
I feel like
government
we're
that's
really
so
far afield from
liberal.
where we started, though. You know what I mean? Like this wasn't like something like an immigration discussion. So help ground me here, because I'm not following you, Lee, respectfully.
I never even mentioned immigration. So I'm just talking about obeying laws. So whatever I feel about immigration or whatever I feel about abortion, I want the authorities, the government to follow what the law is. And it's just confusing to me why anybody would want to live in a country where that was not the case, because then
So,
again, it
so what's your
opens.
opinion about the law saying that a woman has no right to an abortion in a particular state when the woman is raped, conceives, and does not assent to that pregnancy? I'm sorry, at that point, the law that, in my opinion, you seem to be venerating, sorry, don't care.
But you're asking a different question. You're asking what I think about the law, whether or not law should be enforced. And I'm not worried about what I think about a law. I'm saying that if it's a law, it should be enforced. That's the point I'm
What
trying
if
to
it's
make. And
what
my
if it's an That's such an awful standard, though. What if the law itself is patently unethical, immoral, dehumanizing? Again, the way that you're talking, I would not want to be your neighbor in the Weimar Republic, I have to say.
I'm just completely not having anything to say right now. I feel like we're not listening to each other, because I feel like I'm listening to you. I don't feel like you're understanding what I'm trying to get across. I'm not passing judgment on laws. I'm saying that if it's a law, it should be followed. And that just seems to me like
Right, and I
so
think that is
basic
I
as
think that is an
to if I'm
outrageously
hungry, I
honestly,
eat a
like, I think it's a
sandwich.
silly standard. If it's a law, it should be followed. Again, why would I want to be your neighbor in the Weimar Republic? I think that's frightening.
I mean, I wouldn't live in the Weimar Republic if it happened again.
You would if
So
you were
you
born
wouldn't
there
have
and
to
didn't have
worry
a
about
choice
that.
by accident of birth.
I don't know what else to say here. I think that we're missing a step here, Nate. But to answer your question, states where abortion is essentially banned. In these states, abortion is illegal in almost all cases, usually allowed only if the mother's life is in danger. So there are no states where there is complete ban on all abortion, which is the general hypothetical you were throwing out earlier. So that hypothetical doesn't exist. Every state has some exception. But these are the states where it's very,
Which
very
is not
narrow.
good enough because pregnancy is a potentially life threatening condition, Lee. So it doesn't matter if there are exceptions. That's very nice, but once you assume a
I
pregnancy as
will
a woman,
completely
that takes
disagree with you on
that
that,
that
Nate.
takes
The
a
fact
toll
that
on the
there,
body. There is the risk of something like preeclampsia, for example, and there's a reason why
Nate,
women who
if I
have
could finish
child after
my
child
thought
after
and then you
child
could
suffer from
respond,
health
I think that would be
consequences and
better. That
complications.
Yeah, Nate, if we could just allow each other to finish rather than interrupting, I think it would be better for the conversation. I want to hear from you, but just let me finish what I'm doing here. So Alabama, Arkansas, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia. It's about 12, 13 with total or near total bans. But total is in parentheses because it is, I'm sorry, in quotes, because there's no state that has a total ban. So I want to go back to what you were saying earlier. I think it's
Not
a false
relevant. It's
premise.
just not
It
relevant.
doesn't, Nate, I don't know if we're just off today. I don't know if we can continue this conversation because if we just keep interrupting each other, it's really hard to make a point.
Remember, Lee, there is a delay. There's still a delay on this.
I
I think the
understand
delay
that,
would be.
but
I think the delay would be lessened if the delay didn't go away just because we don't agree, my friend.
I don't know. I don't think it's the delay. I think it's that for whatever reason, this is just not working out right now. But I would just say that in the future, it's important to say exactly what you're trying to say because you can get off on so many different tangents. And the thing that I've been trying to say this entire time, and I guess I'll just end on this, and this is probably a good place to end the show, is that if I'm talking about something, I'm not talking about something else. I am very particular about like topics and data. And this whole time I've been trying to talk about laws and what people think of the issue surrounding that law. So the original idea that I was talking about is what do people think about abortion? And then that extended into what actually is the law when it comes to abortion. I think those are very different things and they can sometimes lead to change. So people thought about abortion one way, and the Republican Party worked so hard that they actually got abortion rights taken away at the federal level. So clearly there's a connection there. But now that abortion is set by states, if a state has a rule that says you can get abortions for XYZ or cannot get abortions for XYZ, even though no state has a complete ban on abortion, that does not exist. It doesn't change just because people in that state or people across the country agree or disagree. The only way it would change is if they file lawsuits and things go to different courts and eventually it goes up to the Supreme Court. So the idea that someone would want laws to be followed, whether or not they agree with them, and then jumping to say that that means, well, I wouldn't want to live next to you in the Weimar Republic. I don't see the value of that connection when I can't see one leading to the other. It just seems to me that if we have speeding laws, you should get a ticket if you're speeding. It shouldn't be up to a police officer to pull you over and give you a warning. Because does the police officer give a warning to someone who is attractive? Does the police officer give a warning to someone who is white, but not a warning to someone who is black? I don't see the value in having that amount of leeway. I see the value in this is the law and it should be followed. Now, if someone disagrees with that, that's totally fine. I'm always up for disagreement. But I want to have something more than, well, you're just going to live in the Weimar Republic, because what's the value of saying that? I don't see how one leads to the other. So if you can give me a reason why that leads to the Weimar Republic that makes sense, like, I can see value in that. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you, but I can see value in that. I don't see value in saying that women have this right, and anyone who disagrees with that is someone I would not want to have to have as a neighbor. If anything, that just leads to more problems because people won't get along. 60 years ago, people could live in a neighborhood with people who felt very differently than them because it wasn't part of our identity like it is today. I just don't see the value in talking about these things if we don't actually talk about them in a way that makes sense. And so maybe I'm not explaining that really well, but like, that's how I like to have conversations. And if people want to have conversations in a different way, again, I'm open to that. But give me a reason why what you're saying is valuable and is worth me listening to and me taking time to ask you follow-up questions and understand, because I don't see that. And if I don't see that, then I just say, okay, maybe we just have to move on to something else, because I'm not seeing the value of continuing the conversation. And the reason I'm honest about this is because I want to have a valuable conversation with everybody who's a part of the show. And if I can't get that, at the very least, I want to understand why my idea of a valuable conversation is so different than your idea of a valuable conversation. Because even if we're not actually going off of each other and learning anything, if I can understand why someone thinks differently and thinks that their version of a valuable conversation is superior to mine, well, I'm still learning. And maybe that changes what I think of as a valuable conversation. I just wasn't getting that in like the last 15 minutes, 20 minutes of discussion. It just seemed like we weren't talking to each other. I'm sure that you feel like you were not the one making the mistake, as I feel like I'm not the one that was making the mistake. And so that's fine. Subjective beauty is in the eye of the beholder, sort of a thing. But that's always my goal with the show, is to learn from other people. And aside from learning from other people, actually discuss things. And just like with math, there are certain ways you have to do things to arrive at correct answers. And when you discuss things, I think there are certain ways that you have to do things to arrive, not necessarily at correct answers, but to arrive at valuable answers and to have value in the discussion. And that's how I've run my show mostly since I started doing it. I'm always open to doing new things, but it feels like some things don't work. And that's why I've been on my soapbox for the last 5 to 10 minutes. All right. Big thanks to Apostate Nate. Big thanks to everybody else who's been on today's show over on Stereo, and a few people we had joining us over on Twitter. We're going to wrap things up. We've been going about 2 hours, and that's always my sweet spot. I would love to do some more shows in the next couple of days. So I will schedule those on Twitter and in my Discord server. All those links at bit.ly/NEWZ debate. You can just go to twitter.com/NEWZ debate. That's going to do it, everybody. Take care until next time. Bye-bye.